Modern wars are no longer decided by who launches first. They are decided by who can end the fight before it truly begins. That is the calculation now reshaping the Western Pacific. Japan is building the ability to destroy a Chinese carrier strike group in minutes, not hours, not through brute force, but through precision, coordination, and weapons designed to leave no safe escape routes at sea. The goal is simple and unsettling: cripple China's most powerful naval assets before aircraft can launch, before command chains stabilize, and before escalation becomes unavoidable. This is not speculation. Japan has just unveiled 5 new weapon systems designed to do exactly that. Each one targets a different vulnerability in China's naval doctrine. Together, they form a kill chain that compresses decision time to near zero. For Beijing's navy, which relies on mass, distance, and layered defense, this represents a nightmare scenario. For decades, China's expanding fleet operated with near impunity across the South China Sea and beyond. Carrier groups projected power, warships pushed boundaries, maritime claims hardened into routine presence. Japan was expected to watch, track, and react. That assumption is gone. What you are about to see is not a defensive upgrade. It is a strategic reversal, a shift from endurance to denial, from response to preemption, from survival to control. Japan's military transformation is not political theater or short-term signaling. It is a calculated response to an increasingly compressed threat environment. Pressure is closing in from every direction. China now sails fleets of more than 300 warships, including aircraft carriers, directly through waters Japan considers vital to its survival. Those movements are backed by hypersonic missiles that outrange and outpace anything Tokyo fielded just a decade ago. The traditional defensive buffer has collapsed. To the north, North Korea continues to launch ballistic missiles over the Sea of Japan, probing radar coverage and interceptor limits. To the northeast, Russian submarines operate quietly near Hokkaido, testing detection and response in a game where mistakes are invisible until they are catastrophic. Japan's older answers are no longer sufficient. Aging fighter aircraft with legacy radars struggle to survive in dense missile environment. Diesel submarines, while quiet, cannot chase high-speed surface groups in open ocean. Traditional deterrence fails when timelines shrink from days to minutes. If this imbalance goes unresolved, the consequences are immediate. Nearly 90% of Japan's oil imports pass through waters near Taiwan. Lose control of those sea lanes, even briefly, and Japan's economy stalls. The broader Indo-Pacific balance shifts. Beijing gains the ability to apply pressure without firing a shot. Economic strangulation becomes leverage. That is the risk Japan is now acting against. The central question is no longer whether Japan can defend itself. It is whether Japan can stop China from acting at all. To understand why this moment is so disruptive, you have to understand what Japan used to be. Since 1945, Japan operated under the constraints of Article 9 of its constitution. Its military was capable but deliberately limited. Submarines designed for defense, tanks optimized for homeland protection, aircraft built to intercept, not strike. China treated this posture as permanent. While Japan held back, Beijing poured resources into scale. Massive aircraft carriers, expanding destroyer fleets, stealth aircraft built for air dominance. Quantity was the strategy. Saturation was the plan. Japan was dismissed as a secondary factor. That changed quietly, then all at once. In 2015, a reinterpretation of Article 9 unlocked long-restricted capabilities. By 2023, Japan approved a defense buildup exceeding $300 billion over 5 years, doubling military spending to 2% of GDP for the first time in generations. This was not about matching China ship for ship. It was about changing the rules of engagement. Japan's force remains lean, around 150,000 active personnel, roughly 50 advanced destroyers. But now, layered on top of that, are weapons designed for asymmetric dominance, systems that exploit choke points, compress reaction windows, and punish concentration. China's strength is mass. Japan's new strength is precision. This sets up a classic quality versus quantity confrontation. China fields millions of troops, hundreds of ships, and vast missile inventories designed for saturation. Japan fields fewer platforms, but integrates sensors, targeting, and strike systems into a single, fast-moving decision loop. Globally, this matters far beyond Japan. Japan anchors the Quad alongside the United States, India, and Australia. It controls critical maritime choke points, including the Miyako Strait, where fleets must funnel through narrow corridors. Control here determines access to the open Pacific. If Japan can credibly deny China freedom of movement in these waters, the entire strategic calculus changes. Taiwan becomes harder to isolate, forward aggression becomes riskier, timelines stretch, costs rise. That is why this moment has drawn intense attention inside Beijing, Washington, and defense ministries across Asia. What comes next shocked even longtime observers, because Japan did not just modernize, it built 5 weapons specifically designed to end naval battles before they fully begin. And once you see how they work together, it becomes clear why China's carrier dominance is no longer assured. Japan didn't just buy off-the-shelf toys, they built bespoke killers, tailored precisely to drown planned fleets. This is where everything changed dramatically, setting off a chain reaction across Asia. Japan's Taige-class submarine doesn't just lurk quietly in the depths, it absolutely dominates the undersea game, turning oceans into kill zones. Launched in 2022, these sleek 3,000-ton beasts pack cutting-edge lithium-ion batteries, enabling 20-day silent patrols without a whisper, twice the endurance of China's notoriously noisy Yuan-class hunters that betray their position with every hum. Stealth is the unbeatable edge here. Coated in next-gen anechoic tiles that absorb sound waves, they evade active sonar like a ghost vanishing in the vast Philippine Sea. The critical 1,000-mile stretch from Okinawa to Luzon, where carrier battles will ignite. Why it matters strategically. China's vaunted 3 carriers depend utterly on noisy escorts for protection. One lone Taige could slip undetected inside 50 miles undetected and loose heavyweight Type 12 torpedoes, screaming at 50 knots, far faster than any destroyer can desperately turn to evade. But here's the real kicker. That changes the math. Japan plans to field 22 of these silent assassins by 2030, outpacing China's bloated 70 sub-fleet, not in numbers, but crushing quality. Unlike Beijing's outdated diesel clunkers that must surface noisily for air, Taige's recharge seamlessly via advanced fuel cells. No snorkels to give them away ever. This undersea dominance sets up the surface nightmare, waiting patiently above, ready to exploit the chaos. Japan's hypervelocity, gliding projectile, known as HVGP, screams through the sky at blistering Mach 6, over 4,600 miles per hour, blasting from Tokyo to Shanghai in just 12 minutes. Fielded operationally on upgraded Aegis destroyers by 2025, it skips and glides unpredictably after initial boost phase, dodging even the best interceptors, like China's HQ-9 systems, that top out lamely at Mach 4. With predictable paths, strategic impact hits like a hammer. China's lumbering invasion fleets must cross the narrow Taiwan Strait, 80 miles wide, in vulnerable hours, while HVGP swarms, launched from afar, overwhelm them at standoff 200 miles out, about the distance from Tokyo to majestic Mount Fuji. Cost efficiency seals the deal. $2 million per shot, far cheaper than a JASSM's $1.5 million equivalent, with no fragile GPS signals for jamming. Analysts at RAND project starkly that a single Maya-class destroyer, unleashing 96 of these, could gut 40% of a PLAN amphibious force in one devastating salvo, turning troop transports into fiery wrecks. This is where China made a critical, unforgivable mistake, betting everything on sheer quantity over smart agility, leaving gaps HVGP exploits ruthlessly. Japan's upgraded Type 12 missile adds devastating anti-ship punch, delivered at just $1,000 per mile of range, versus China's bloated YJ-21, which costs triple for less finesse. Here is the part that kept battle planners up at night sweating. Integration with US Tomahawks, creating unstoppable combined strikes that multiply firepower exponentially. But there's one nagging problem nobody's talking about yet, lurking right on the surface, waiting to erupt. The J-Lens directed energy weapon, Japan's shipboard laser, zaps incoming drones and missiles instantly, at the speed of light, for a laughable $1 per shot, making ammo scarcity a relic. Mounted on Izumo-class carriers, by 2026, it unleashes 150 kilowatts of raw power, enough to instantly melt a drone's delicate optics and fry electronics from 5 miles away, like frying an egg instantly on LA's infamous 405 freeway at peak rush hour chaos. It dominates utterly because China's favored swarm tactics, deploying thousands of cheap, expendable UAVs, crumble completely against this unlimited fire hose of energy. A 2023 US-Japan simulation, off Guam, showed lasers downing 80% of a massive 200 drone wave, while traditional ammo stocks barely budged. Trade-off exists? Sure, clear weather only, but smartly paired with overlapping radars, it forces PLA pilots into desperate low-altitude runs, straight into waiting SAM traps below. What they did next is even more surprising and game-altering. Japan scaled this laser tech rapidly to full anti-missile role, countering deadly DF-21s that scream across 1,000 miles unchecked. Unlike Raytheon's exorbitant $10 million SM-6 interceptors, which run dry fast, these lasers reload in seconds, firing endlessly. This relentless capability kept Beijing's top admirals awake in cold sweats, until the skies above turned equally deadly, with new threats incoming. The FX Japan's fully homegrown 6th-gen stealth fighter enters frontline service in 2028, meticulously crafted by Mitsubishi with powerhouse GE engines that deliver sustained Mach 2+ speeds across vast Pacific theaters, while seamlessly commanding swarms of AI-piloted loyal wingman drones that act as expendable force, multipliers extending sensor reach and missile loads without risking pilots. It carries 10 advanced long-range air-to-air missiles tucked safely inside revolutionary radar, evading internal bays that slash detection risk, boasting 30% lower observability than China's vaunted J-20 stealth design, making it a ghost even to advanced AWACS networks that Beijing relies on heavily. Quantum encrypted data links fuse it perfectly with F-35 squadrons, creating unbeatable airborne networks where FX acts as quarterbacks calling shots across 200-mile battle spaces, outmaneuvering slower J-20 formations bogged down by inferior software. Unlike China's copycat approach, plagued by engine reliability woes, Japan's indigenous design integrates directed energy weapons for zapping incoming missiles, mid-flight, and hypersonic standoff munitions that keep enemies at arm's length, forever altering dogfight rules in contested skies over the East China Sea. Why it's decisively superior over the tense East China Sea, 400 miles of hotly contested air. FX seamlessly networks with allied F-35s, delivering 200-mile beyond visual range kills before enemies spot them. In a projected RAND wargame scenario, 100 FX versus J-20 clashes end with Japan winning 3-1 decisively, thanks to breakthrough quantum radars that spot stealth ghosts reliably at 150 miles out. Cost edge tilts further, $120 million per jet edges out J-20's $110 million, but Japan's loaded version adds integrated directed energy pods for mid-air zaps. Yes, Japan's arsenal decisively halts and potentially reverses China's South China Sea dominance through layered, unstoppable denial. Taige subs choke vital sea lanes completely undetected. From below, HVGP and lasers shred approaching fleets at extreme standoff range before they close, and FX fighters own the skies above, all seamlessly integrated via JAD-C2 networks that outpace sluggish PLA command loops by minutes that feel like hours. Wargames consistently show a 60% survival edge for Japanese forces in a full Taiwan crisis, flipping Beijing's mass advantage into a fatal liability. Here's what you need to remember, burned into every strategist's playbook forever. First, Japan's surgical precision multiplies every single asset with devastating force dramatically, as these 5 tailored weapons designed from the ground up counter an overwhelming 300 Chinese ships, not through reckless head-on destruction, but purely through brilliant, smart denial tactics that choke supply lines, blind sensors, and force retreats before blood hits the water, preserving Japan's forces intact for the long haul. Second, costs brutally and relentlessly favor Tokyo in this grinding attritional war. With $1 lasers that fire endlessly zapping drone hordes for pennies, and $2 million hypersonics that deliver carrier-killing punches at a fraction of enemy interceptor prices, systematically bankrupting China's massed swarm tactics over any prolonged fight where Beijing hemorrhages cash, while Japan reloads cheaply and strikes again. Third, alliances supercharge this entire equation beyond imagination. US bases embedded deep in Okinawa, packed with Marines, F-35s, and missile stocks, transform Japan itself into an unsinkable mega-carrier fortress spanning thousands of miles, deterring any rational invasion calculus entirely by 2030, when layered defenses make crossing the straits suicide for amphibious fleets, creates an unbridgeable gap, forcing China into frantic, desperate counters that sink trillions into half-baked, rushed upgrades, bleeding their already strained economy dry while exposing dangerous internal fractures like faltering supply chains and wavering political will. Picture this grim scenario. For Beijing, every major shipyard diverted overnight, from glamorous carrier dreams to frantic patchwork drone defenses, churning out vulnerable copies that Japanese lasers vaporize effortlessly, while Tokyo quietly scales production lines, humming around the clock, churning out Taigei subs and FX fighters, alliances with the US through ironclad mutual defense pacts, and Quad partners like India and Australia multiply this technological lead exponentially, turning vast regional seas from Taiwan Strait to Malacca into absolute no-go zones for any aggressor fleet daring to venture forth. The burning question, gripping strategists worldwide now, isn't merely if Beijing, forced to the wall, backs down, humiliated from the Spratlys, abandoning those artificial islands built at massive human and financial cost, now rusting uselessly under constant threat, but precisely when that inevitable retreat happens, amid mounting operational failures and domestic unrest. This seismic shift doesn't just redraw maps. In pencil, it ignites the explosive next phase of Indo-Pacific rivalry, where innovative denial strategies win entire wars decisively before the first shot rings out, rendering massed invasions relics of a bygone era, and catapulting Japan from defensive island chain to pivotal power broker, shaping alliances for decades. The race accelerates monthly, with breakthroughs in quantum sensing and autonomous swarms, but one truth stands firm: Japan drew first blood and holds the high ground. Like, share, and subscribe to stay connected with expert perspectives on the evolving technology landscape.